We all have passions that drive us. And since 1934, Fram's driving passion has been focused on protecting your vehicle. Fram's premium industry-leading filters are designed to optimize your vehicle's performance and keep the air you breathe clean. Whether it's an oil, engine, or cabin air filter, Fram keeps you moving forward with innovative filtration technology designed for what drives you. So find your passion, and we'll make sure you get there with confidence. Visit Fram.com for more info and retailers near you.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system. If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served. Hi, I'm Detective Dave. I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood. So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished. From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Don't do it. Don't make me laugh. Stop, Mary Beth.
You started it.
I started it. You went mer. You went mer, and then you had a look on your face. That is how this started. Yeah, you go in the corner.
Fine.
Go pout in the corner with Misu. And welcome back to. Gosh, no, that's not it. Jesus.
Off to a really good
One of these
start.
days, this will be professional. And welcome back to Little Cuts. That's the word I was looking for. Our weekly mini-sode where we dig into the things that we've been watching recently. I'm Terry.
And I am Mary Beth. This week we're talking about The Sound of Silence, Murderous Dogs, and getting our on.
So I have to ask, I think we've talked about this before, but have you ever heard ki ma ma ma, or do you hear ch-ch-ch-ka-ka, ch-ch-ch-ha-ha?
I hear kiki ma 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 only because that's what I've always seen spelled out. So I think I was just programmed to think that.
For the longest time, I always thought it was ch-ch-ch-ha-ha. And then come to find out later on that it is actually, you're right, ki ma ma ma, because it's kill 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 mom mom mom.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I really have not given Friday the 13th very much thought, which is terrible. Sorry to everyone who loves that franchise. But anyway, so Murderous Dogs?
Murderous Dogs. I mean, it's been kind of like the conversation du jour on Twitter where like everyone seems to have opinions on this Cruella movie. And I really liked it.
Okay. You are one of the first people I have heard to have a positive opinion on it, which I'm excited to hear.
I think Joe also really likes it, but
cool.
I thought this movie was fantastic. I had a fucking blast watching it. This is the first time I dropped $30 on the fucking premiere access for Disney, and I was not mad about it. I spent $30 to watch this movie, and I was not mad about it. So, I mean, you know, the story, it's a prequel about Cruella de Vil. You kind of go through her life as an early orphan where her mother is killed by a trio of Dalmatians in the opening scene. And I've seen that video across Twitter and people have, you know, kind of dunked on it, but there is context to this that actually makes it work, in my opinion.
Okay. I was going to say, because I saw that on Twitter and was like, I love how trash that is.
I mean, when I saw that when I saw it, and I had not seen that Twitter video that I saw that afterwards, but when I saw it, my mouth was like, what did I just witness? Like, it was very like, what the fuck? And then afterwards, like once you start to like the plot unfurls and you start to learn more, it all makes sense. But yeah, so her mom is killed by Dalmatians. She ends up living in London with two pickpocketers, and then we sort of cut to her being an adult and trying to be getting into the fashion industry because she's always loved fashion. And that was the whole reason that her mom wanted to go to London with her, was so that she would get into the fashion industry. And so she ends up working for the Baroness, played to like Camp Perfection by Emma Thompson, and giving us sort of like a Devil Wears Prada type vibe to it, in my opinion.
Hell yeah.
And then she discovers something about, Cruella discovers something about the Baroness, and the story goes from there. And I have to say that maybe it's because I wasn't expecting a whole lot from the plot, but some of the twists kind of surprised me. Like I was disarmed enough that I wasn't thinking about the plot, so that when the twist happened, it's like, holy shit, that actually like surprised me. And I love it when a movie can do that.
Okay, so obviously there's been a lot of hate and saying that it's not a good movie and dunking on it. I saw a fucking clip of when she got dumped out of a dumpster and she unfurled her dress and it was not trash, but a dress. And I was like, wait, why are we dunking on this movie? Because that's the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
Like,
the fashion,
that is gorgeous.
The fashion in this movie is like, it's fierce. Her performance is fantastic. I think it's well acted. I think Craig Gillespie directs the fucking shit out of this movie. Like he's the guy that he did I, Tonya and Lars and the Real Girl.
Okay. Huh.
He directs the absolute crap out of this movie. As far as the direction goes and as far as the cinematography goes, I don't know how you could fault this movie. It is a little long. With credits, I believe it's like 2 hours and 15 minutes maybe, or something like that. 2 hours and 20, somewhere around that. But
that's a long
there's
movie
15 minutes of credits. So it's actually like 2:05.
It's still a long movie about
it is a long
the origin story of a Disney film.
I mean, I'm just going to say, I think this is the best live action thing that Disney has done. And I think it's the best movie that Disney has done in a very long time. Sorry, not sorry. I love this movie.
Okay. Well,
like I'm going to probably buy it when it comes out, even after I drop $30 on it. Shit. I love this. This was like my shit.
Fuck yeah. Okay. Wow. That sells me on it. 'Cause like I've seen all the nasty shit on Twitter, but at the same time in my head, I'm like, but it's about a woman who wants to make a coat out of Dalmatians. So like, it's going to be kind of dumb, or like silly. It's not going to be like, I don't know. And it's full of cool fashion. Just pretty to look at. Just the trailer.
It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous looking film. And yeah, I mean, I don't mind if dogs get killed. I'm sorry. Not in real life. Let me clarify. Let me clarify that point, so it's not like
you might have to edit that out of the podcast. Gonna get canceled.
I'm sorry. I don't. When pets die in movies, it doesn't bother. I mean, it bothers me, but it's like it doesn't make me.
It's the way that a lot of people are.
I'm not rushing to doesthedogdie.com.
I was gonna say you're not fervently checking that every time you go see a movie.
No, and in fact, sometimes I think it's great, like in the pool. The moment in the pool. Have you seen the pool?
I have not seen the pool, but I don't know the exact specifications of the moment, but like I am aware of the moment of which you speak.
Love it. This is probably the last episode I'll ever do of a podcast, but
this has been the final episode of Scarred for Life.
Before, I mean, because I know the next movie we're going to both talk about. So before we do get to that, I just want to point out that if you are listening to this on the day it comes out, Lisey's story has debuted on Apple TV, and I'm not going to talk about it because I have a whole podcast, spoiler alert, that I'm doing with Joe Lipsett on the Anatomy of a Scream podcast network called Nightmares and Dreamscapes, and we are tackling each episode, and that will come out on Saturday. So little plug, but just sort of, yeah, go listen to that if you're following along.
Do you like it so far?
I do.
Okay,
it's cool. Not what I was expecting. It's very slow.
Okay.
But I am enjoying it.
Cool.
And I'm curious to see where it's going to go. I'm curious to see where it's going to go.
Sweet.
So let's talk about The Sound of Silence.
Not really not much silence in this one. In A Quiet Place, Part 2. Not a silent.
Part 2.
Not a silent. So Quiet Place Part 2. I know we both saw this. This was the first movie I've seen back in movie theaters. Very exciting. I saw it at 12:30 p.m. on my birthday last week. It was a very good time. Picking up where we left off from Quiet Place Part 1. Leaving that farm, trying to figure out what to do after survivalist dad John Krasinski got by our strange creatures who are affected by sound. And if they can't hear you, they can't eat you. And so this basically has our family minus John Krasinski going off to find another person, Ken, who's played by the hot Cillian Murphy. And it's about them, once again, trying to survive in a quiet place. Not selling it very well, am I?
I've just, for some reason, I have that Rihanna song in my head now. Except instead of like, we found love in a something place.
Love in a quiet place.
We found survival in a quiet place. Part 2. So did you like it?
I did. I liked most of it. I think that the dialogue they added was absolutely cheeseball. I liked it better when they were not speaking. It felt very much very kind of like aspirational, and I'll always love you, and it just feels very cheesy. Like every time they spoke to each other, it felt very contrived. And what I liked about when they could not speak is the nuance of the facial expressions and the performances that the actors gave without being able to speak. It was amazing. And in the parts of this film where they don't speak, again, these performances are absolutely stellar. So I don't really know why we added more dialogue into it, because I just think whoever wrote the script didn't do a great job with that particular.
So what I'm hearing is that John Krasinski is a better director than he is a writer.
1000% what I am saying.
Because
the
first A Quiet Place was written by Brian Woods, Scott Beck, and John Krasinski. But it was based on a story by Brian Woods and Scott Beck. And I have a feeling that they probably wrote the bulk of the dialogue. And this new movie is just written by John Krasinski.
And he doesn't know how to write. He knows how to write an action sequence. I will say the opening scene, that's it's like the day of when everything went to shit.
Oh.
That was pretty fucking cool. That got me.
Cool.
That was really well done. I think that part was really well done. So I think, and a lot of the scenes with the monsters, the action sequences where people are being chased, they're fighting, those are really well done. But the human connection, it was not selling me this time. It just didn't connect.
I agree with that. I do think the first one had a bit more of an emotional core to it. And I think I definitely felt like I resonated more in terms of the story of the first one and the emotional side of things. And I mean, I don't really remember the dialogue in the first one, so I can't really comment on that. But the dialogue in this one, I agree, when you can hear it, it's a little cheesy, because I do think the dialogue is really turned down, or at least in my theater, it was turned down, where there's a point where it's I felt like Emily Blunt's character is trying to say some very important things, and I'm straining to the side, to the screen, what are you saying? Are you saying something?
Yeah.
Hello?
Well, there wasn't a lot of the dialogue in the first one. It was all done. There was no speaking. It was all sign language or facial expressions. So that's what I was trying to remember. There was barely any. If there was barely any actual spoken lines of dialogue. Mm-hmm. So that's why in this one I was that was a bad choice. I think it also, but it ruins that whole novelty. They're in a place maybe where they can talk, but this one, it felt so much more. I felt the stress. In the first one, you felt bad for eating fucking popcorn and watching that movie. I will say,
oh my God,
that was stressful. This one was not as stressful to me. I guess maybe because I knew what to expect, but this one also didn't. This one was, I feel like, so much more invested in showing more monster action. So it wasn't as tense as the first one, where it felt more like survivalist, focusing on the family and like how they're going to survive with her having a baby and all that stuff. But this one, it felt much more like a monster movie, if that makes sense. Like it was more about the spectacle of the monsters and those kinds of moments, I thought.
So an Aliens to an Alien.
Exactly. Yeah. Though. Maybe like a knockoff version of that.
Yes, definitely not.
I don't think John Krasinski's a bad director. I just don't necessarily think he's like a visionary either.
I kept getting like vibes of The Last of Us in this,
yes!
just in terms of like
yes.
Like you had the kind of like the grizzled man who was hot, played by Cillian Murphy, and he's with the daughter most of the time, and it just like it felt like that kind of relationship that I've seen in The Last of Us play out between, you know, the lead character and the kid in that movie, Ellie and Joel, and it's just like, I don't know, it felt like I'd seen it before, whereas like the first movie felt novel, I guess, because of the quiet aspect of it. And it's funny that you bring up that you feel bad about eating popcorn in that first movie, because I remember sitting in the theater and like it would be deathly quiet, and then you'd hear a crunch as someone was like eating nachos, and then there was like nervous laughter because it was like it was so quiet in that one. Yeah, I think this movie is a good follow-up. I am curious to see what they're going to do with the third movie, if they do a third movie, because it definitely feels it has a very abrupt ending.
Yeah, that was annoying. But
the editing, though, I have to say, there's like one particular sequence where the characters are spread out in, I think, 3 different locations, and it keeps like cutting between them as the tension is constantly building between all 3 set pieces. And that really worked for me. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, I think a lot of the editing and action stuff, like the tension building, I think is really well done. I really had a lot of fun watching it. I jumped, I yelled, like it was a great time. So I enjoyed it a lot, and I think it was a good time. I think that John Krasinski made a mistake in adding more and kind of forgetting what made it so scary, the first one so intense, and opting for more action. But again, it wasn't bad.
No.
I had a really good time.
Me too. Good. Going back to the movie theater experience, huh?
It was. I was fucking okay, I will say the one thing that like I could not stop laughing about, no matter how hard I tried not to think about it, was the baby in the fucking box with the tiny oxygen mask. Like they're just carrying around a baby in a box with oxygen mask. It's got a tiny baby oxygen mask, and there's just.
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, listeners, if you could see Mary Beth's face.
It's just. What's in the box? A baby.
You know, it's weird though that I have watched 2 movies this last weekend featuring things that I don't like to see in movies, which is babies and animals. I don't mind if either of them get killed in movies.
Well, you just saw the baby getting thrown around in that goddamn box for an hour and a half.
Oh, I know. That baby's going to have brain damage by the end of this series. That poor baby.
Anyway, I couldn't stop laughing about it. It was so funny to me. I was like, that just seems like a lot of work.
I know. Where did they get a mask that small?
I know, where did they get a mask that small? And then Noah Jupe puts it on his face, and it's just like... Anyway. Things that ridiculous. I probably shouldn't have focused on, but I could not stop thinking about, because it's like I feel like half the movie is them trying to make sure the baby doesn't fucking cry, and it's in an insulated box that they're carrying around. Anyway.
Transitioning from being very quiet to being very loud. What remake did we tackle this week?
All right.
Do you like my segue?
I'll give you like a B- for that one.
That's better than I probably deserve.
We watched the 2009 remake of Friday the 13th. starring Jared Padalecki.
He's a very attractive man.
So I was never on the Supernatural train. I just never got
Me
into
neither.
Supernatural, but he is beautiful.
He is. He's very attractive. So this was your first watch. What did you think?
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah?
I really had fun. I sometimes watch these movies while I'm working, and I'd mentioned this before. Like, Steve sits next to me in our office, and he looks over sometimes and is like, what's on the docket today? And he looked over and actually like kept watching this one. Our particularly favorite moment is, which I think really encapsulates the best of all of this movie, is when Jason stabs a machete through the slats of the dock and pulls the girl out of the water, and her tits are out.
Yep, just pulls her up just enough to show her tits, and then pause and back in the water.
Like, it's just so dumb, but it knows it's dumb. Also, the cold open is fucking awesome.
Okay, cold open. 23 fucking minute cold open.
Like, Empty Man. I want to do a listicle now of like the best horror cold opens, because Empty Man and this one are two very fucking good cold opens. Holy shit.
I have to say, I think the cold open of this is the best part of the film. For a number of reasons. One, I feel like the characters get more character development in 10 minutes than most any other Friday the 13th movie or the rest of the characters in this movie. I laugh so much at the one character, Richie, who is played by Ben Feldman. And
he's in
just like,
As Above So Below. He's the nerdy love interest in As Above So Below.
I think he's very attractive too. But like him and his friend is trying to like talk to him about GPS, and he is looking past him at his girlfriend. He's just like, I want to fuck you. He's like mouthing the words like, and she's like, oh, and she's pulling down her shirt and whatnot. That scene is like that flirtiness of like, it's verging into gratuitous, but it like feels more real than any of the other nudity in the film.
It feels like funny. It doesn't just feel like,
right.
Oh, you want to fuck me? That's my porn star.
That was the best. That was the best.
That was me trying to portray the difference between very porny and very like. I swear to God, I've watched porn before too, and that just made it sound like I have only ever like heard someone talk about porn, like just a mention of it on the breeze.
But no, I know exactly what you mean. I do think the biggest problem with this remake is that they kill off the most interesting and likable characters and then fill the rest with the most boring, stereotypical, bobble-headed people. Mm-hmm. That is going to be my complaint. And Jared Padalecki. But that would be my biggest complaint about the last 2/3 of the film. But I do think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. My other there were parts where I was it felt like it was trying to be really smart, and I think it almost succeeded in some moments. Like the part where she's like, oh yeah, you like rap? He's like, why are you gonna say I like rap? Is it because I'm black? That's not like cool of you to just assume that. And then she goes, oh, that was stupid of me, like what is it? And he said rap, and I was like, it's kind of funny. It seemed like they were trying to play with these like horror expectations, but I don't think it does it enough that it feels super purposeful, if you know what I mean. Like,
I mean, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, because like I was like, oh, okay, that feels, considering that this movie was in 2009 too, it feels like appropriately in the 2009 version of like wokeness, of sort of like playing with expectations at that time,
like very obviously being like, is it because I'm black? Like being very obvious and ham-fisted about their.
But best line in the movie, you got perfect nipple placement, baby.
Your breasts are stupendous.
Which, okay, actually,
placement was my favorite. I was like, this is hysterical. Like, this is very funny to me.
But what also makes it work so great is that before that, and I should have started with this first, he says, so juicy, dude. And then he's like, you got perfect nipple placement, baby. And he's talking to the same person at this point. I'm just like,
she's naked and riding him. Like they are in the middle of having sex.
Uh-huh.
Incredible. I will. My other favorite line, though, is when the stoner boy, played by Aaron Yu, who I love, goes, "I want to die and be reincarnated as the button on the ass pocket of her denim shorts." And I was like, some of this writing is very funny. It's very 2009. Like, it is very 2009, but it's really funny in a way that is just like, yep, that was what comedy was. And you know what? Not bad. Some of it's pretty funny.
I do have a question, though. Is Jason a weed grower?
Okay, thank you. Is he a pot farmer? I hope not, because no pot farmer should be that angry. Like, please get high. But he's
introduced. He's introduced when they stumble across the weed thing, and then the weed farm, and then he kills the one dude, and then he ends up following the redneck to his house after he's like taken a big bag of weed. And I'm like, are we angry because they stole our weed? I mean, that was probably a lot of weed. That's probably a lot of money.
Yeah, but so I guess this is Jason's grow op. He's not getting revenge. He's just trying to protect his weed operation.
Yeah.
Also,
I will say it was his weed.
Very hysterical that he just like found the hockey mask. Like that whole moment of him just finding it and putting it on. I was like, fine.
Well, and speaking of the Aaron Yu, the stoner dude, when he's like, "Are you looking for this? Because it completes your outfit." He like holds up the hockey stick to Jason.
I love him. I think I just have a soft spot for the stoner boy. Like, he has the suitcase with like the multi-piece bong that he takes out, and it's like she has a name and she's beautiful. It's like the coffee cup bong in A Cabin in the Woods, or the pot pinata in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Pinata.
Which,
it's not a good early 2000s horror movie if there isn't a stoner character who is carrying around paraphernalia or just a ton of weed in the.
Absolutely. Same director too, by the way, as Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I definitely think I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre better than Friday the 13th, I will say.
Yeah, I do too. Although I will say that I honestly think that the 23-minute cold open is just as close to perfection. It's as close to what I would want a Friday the 13th movie to be, for sure.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
Sweet. All so right. What's our next aughts remake, Terry?
Okay. So we are going to, because of Army of the Dead and Zack Snyder, we're going to go rewatch, rewatch for me, watch for you for the first time, 2004's Dawn of the Dead.
So excited.
Which I love because it was written by James Gunn.
That's right. Damn, I forget what he's involved with sometimes. Like the weird, cool shit he's done.
Mm-hmm. But then who are we talking to on Monday, Mary Beth?
So on Monday, we are talking with paranormal expert and creepy stories podcaster Sapphire Sandalo, and we are talking about 1987's Dolls, aka What the Fuck. What the fuck?
What the fuck?
Yes. So definitely listen to Scary Stories with Sapphire, though, if you want to get a taste for what her podcasts are like. It's very good. And shameless plug, I'll be on an episode later this summer talking about my creepy haunted house where I grew up. So
I can't wait to listen to that.
I know. Very excited.
And she's such a wonderful person. You all should just go listen to her stuff.
Her voice is very soothing. She's very articulate. She has like a really good eye for what's scary, a really good way of interviewing people, and she's just like super talented and creative. She does like everything. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. She's so talented. It's amazing. It's frustrating how talented she is, because she just does like literally everything.
This is a Sapphire Sandala Stan podcast now. Thank you and have a good night. But listeners, you've heard from us, but we want to hear from you. Did you watch one of the films that we talked about this week and have thoughts? Do you have suggestions for things that we should talk about? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McGandrews.
And I'm a Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is the briefing room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system. If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served. Hi, I'm Detective Dave. I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood. So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished. From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.